paraphrase what the Romanian author Mihail Sadoveanu once said, one who thinks a scenery stays the same, that dawns, noons, and twilights repeat themselves, is mistaken. This is the story of our winter adventure to Vatra Dornei and a few other locations in the northeastern parts of the Romanian Carpathians. Yet another story I'm retelling you, my friends, about adventures now behind us, but never forgotten. Vatra Dornei is a welcoming town from the historic region of Bucovina, located in the northeastern part of Romania in Suceava county, nestled between the areas of Transylvania and Moldova at an altitude of 800 meters. It is a popular ski resort town, also known for its gorgeous scenery regardless of the season. After checking into our Airbnb from the center of Vatra Dornei, the first item on our agenda was finding the chairlift and getting a nice sightseeing tour from someplace up. We started walking through the central park of Vatra Dornei. Stopped briefly in the area of the park ski slope, or Pârtia Park in Romanian, and followed the map for around 15 minutes. On streets covered with a white blanket. Until we found the cliff chair sign. We then climbed a few snowy steps. The cables and chairs already dangling above our heads. We found the terminal, got our tickets, thanks my dude, and set out on our thrilling adventure. Some of us bravely conquered their fear of the cliff chair and the high altitude as a winter wonderland unraveled itself under our eyes, making it all worth it. Remember how you said you felt like Elsa from Frozen up there, Sichan? Minus the letting go part, of course. This ride took about 25 minutes, but it felt much shorter as every part of it offered breathtaking views that made us forget all about the concept of time. The 3 kilometers between terminals were gradually leading us up to 1,300 meters in altitude, from Vatra Dornei to the top of Dealu Negru, or the Black Hill. The silence we heard in the brief moments of pause from our lively chat was a silence that only snow knows how to create, a sort of dimming or softening of the sound. Nature's very own soundproofing technique. Remember the rows of snow-covered fir trees on either side of our ropeway system? The solitary houses here and there? Or the spectacular view of the mountains in the distance? After getting to the top and having a warm meal at a table offering this view, we set out to explore the plateau. We saw horses, as the locals were offering rides in open sleighs, as well as horseback riding that one of us dreamt about and successfully checked off their bucket list. One of the highlights of our trip was the incredible view over the Dornelor depression. Located somewhere between the Nordic and the central group of the Eastern Carpathians. The depression is surrounded by mountains such as Suhard, Jumalău, Bistiței, and Călimani. We explored as much as we could, enjoying the snow and the cold palette of nature. The sheer depth of the panorama, which from such heights always feels difficult to capture on camera. One has to witness it in real life and feel it for themselves. Up there, we truly felt we were in Țara Dornelor, or the land of Dorna. I'm sure you remember the legend behind its name, you guys. A knowledgeable tour guide revealed it to us the day after this one. It is said that, once upon a time, Dragoș Vodă, Prince of Moldova, fell in love with the beautiful daughter of a shepherd. Her name was Dorina. One day, while he was out hunting in these lands, he took out his bow as he noticed rustling in the shrubbery, or aimed for a deer, but instead, he mistakenly shot an arrow at Dorina, not knowing she was there. Full of remorse for ending her life, he buried her there, in the valley of a river he named after her, Dorna. And thus, the area itself became known as the land of Dorna, or Țara Dornelor. At 4 o'clock, we had to return to the chairlift terminal, as that was the closing hour. Another mental preparation before hopping on the fast-approaching chair meant another adrenaline boost, making us even happier to see the whole landscape from an opposite point of view compared to coming up. Remember how the chair was shaking a bit every time it passed one of these towers, Ichan? You made sure I was having a firm grip on my camera every time I was focused on filming our surroundings. This time, we were facing the distant mountains directly. The sky kept its shade of bluish gray, while we got a little further from it with each passing moment. On our way back to the lower altitude of the town, the land complemented the gray of the sky, with its choice of blues, teal, and dark greens, wherever the white of the snow allowed it. Chunks of heavy snow were falling off occasionally from the fir tree branches here and there as we passed by them. We made our way back to the center of the town, just walking around, looking at the colorful souvenirs and winter sports gear displayed outside, enjoying the music from the park's ski slope area, semi-seriously considering to rent a sleigh, and thinking about how to spend a few hours while waiting for another friend to join us. We decided to have something to drink and warm up in a pub. This mulled wine was a terribly sweet experience for me, but I still drank it, complaining all the way. By the time we finished our drinks, the early January sky was covered in darkness completely. As the lively town turned on its warm lights, some of them remnants of the Christmas season that has just passed. We stumbled upon yet another casino. This one's full name translates to the Therapeutic Baths Casino of Vatra Dornei. I've read that it was built in 1898, while this area was a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It was built by the Austrian architect Peter Paul Brang, and it was meant primarily for the tourists who would visit the town for the therapeutic baths, as mineral water has always been a natural resource in these parts. By the end of the last century, it fell into disrepair, and it has been renovated only a few years ago. Nowadays, it serves as a museum and a cultural center. Remember this monument we've seen near the casino? It is a mineral water spring called Sentinella, or the Sentinel. And it is yet another reminder of the town's history as a popular spa destination. After meeting up with our friend, we had a memorable dinner and called it a night. Good thing we didn't book our road trip for the 5th of January, as that day started bright and early at 7 a.m. and on Sunday, the 4th of January, our actual first day in Vatra Dornei, we got to our guest house late in the evening. We were tired and hungry, but after checking in, buying a few drinks and ordering pizza, we were fully recharged by the sauna and the Romanian equivalent of a jacuzzi, a Ciubar. We had them all for ourselves. I had so much fun, I forgot to be a better cameraman. So I guess enjoy the bits and pieces we have, but to sum it all up, it was like this. A snuffed out fire, reignited with teamwork and perseverance, to heat our tub once again. A sip of icy beer above the steamy water. A frozen leather covered with a towel to prevent slipping. Colorful LED lights. Salty steam in the sauna. Wet hair, freezing. The sound of the river behind us, noticed only between two laughs. A whole Ciubar all for ourselves. So anyway, on Tuesday, the 6th of January, we got up bright and early, like I said, as we've booked a guided road trip for that day that was meant to take us from Vatra Dornei to the Red Lake, the Bicazului Gorge, and a few other attractions from the area. The winter sun started to rise only when we were already out of the town of Vatra Dornei, having been comfortably seated in our minivan for the day. Too comfortably, in fact. We kept dozing off and listening to the many stories and facts our well-informed driver told us about the area. He reminded us about Victoria Lipan, the protagonist of Mihail Sadoveanu's book, The Hatchet, and her own journey to find her missing husband, as she also passed through Vatra Dornei and ventured through these parts as well. Daylight was starting to reveal more and more details of the surroundings. As we left Suceava County and entered the county of Harghita, our first stop was in the town of Borsec, known for its mineral water. Remember how we filled our bottles from this fountain in the center of the small town? We grabbed some much-needed coffees to go and continued our journey. The road kept providing snowy visuals for the interesting stories we were hearing from our guide. Even though we were sleepy, we were still excited about our main destinations. But the road itself was an attraction we were glad to see, as well as the other brief stops along the way. Our next stop was at Toplita, in Harghita County, at an Orthodox monastery, Mănăstirea Sfântului Ilie, or Saint Elijah's Monastery, built at the foot of the Kalimani Mountains. The monastery and its surroundings offer an authentic Romanian picture. One of the entrances to the courtyard offers a nice little pathway that guides visitors from a traditional wooden interior under an arched arbor in the middle of tujas and fir trees, and all the way to the wooden church in the center. The architectural techniques of Moldavian craftsmen are especially noticeable when it comes to the small church in the center of the complex, in the decorative elements made out of wood, such as the arches. The porch entrance is also a nicely crafted piece of woodwork, supported by carved columns, and together with the snowy mountain in the background, it offers a truly picturesque atmosphere. And speaking of picturesque, our road trip continued alongside icy rivers and snowy trees. Passing through small towns with wintry backdrops. Cutting through a wide open field. All the way to another impressive church that we stopped to admire for a second, before losing ourselves in the depths of the mountains again. The occasional light rain making the colors pop even more and the road glisten. The woods surrounding us once more. The atmosphere here became perfectly moody, thanks to the wisps of mist settling over the mountaintops. The Red Lake was one of the main points of our road trip. We stopped for about an hour or so here. It was completely frozen and covered in snow. People and dogs were walking on it. We, on the other hand, were advised not to walk on the frozen lake, so we looked at it from the shoreline. We've heard that it is one of the largest lakes created by a natural dam in Romania, formed in the 1830s when a big part of a mountain collapsed and the resulting landslide ended up blocking the Bicaz river valley. There are many stories behind its name. One explanation would be the reddish water that flows into it from a creek called Varasco, which means red stone in Hungarian and it gets its color as a result of flowing over layers of red iron oxides and hydroxides. Another explanation could come from one of its legends, according to which that chunk of the mountain that caused the natural dam would have fallen over an entire village below, and the blood of its unfortunate citizens would flow into the lake, thus making it red. This legend could also be the reason behind the mountaintop's name and the lake's current name in Hungarian, Gyilkos, meaning killer in Hungarian. In any case, traces of a submerged forest can be seen here, as several tree stumps are piercing through the water. The view was okay, and I'm glad we saw how it looks in the winter, but it's probably more impressive in the summer. We saw this interesting wooden statue of King Saint Stephen, Hungary's patron saint, sculpted out of oak wood by Horváth Lajos. The description below says it was gifted to the locals of this area by the people of Székesfehérvár from Hungary in 2013 as a wish to consolidate the togetherness between communities. Remember this absolute masterpiece of a snowman? Or the colorful and creative souvenirs? Our journey continued to the Bicaz Gorges, located in the center of the Hășmaș Mountains, between the historical regions of Moldova and Transylvania. They're part of the Cheile Bicazului Hășmaș National Park. The road kept promising amazing views not far away, as we could already see the altar stone, one of the landmarks of the Bicaz Gorge, reaching over 1,000 meters. I've read somewhere that there's a legend saying the old Dacians used to hold worship ceremonies on top of it, hence the name. Not sure how true that is though. Our guide told us that nowadays it's a popular spot for alpinists. After a while, we arrived in the most scenic portion of the gorge. Here, we stepped out of the van for a bit and took a 15-minute walk to enjoy the scenery as per our driver's recommendation. The Bicaz Gorges were gorgeous. I'm sorry guys, I had to ruin the mood for this joke. Take two. The Bicaz Gorge turned out to be indeed a spectacular limestone canyon. The road we've been following was twisting and turning even more here, as the passageway narrowed among these giant rocky limestone walls, reaching hundreds of meters, rendering our road to a mere serpent, slithering through hell's throat, if you'll excuse the metaphor, as that's the name of this section of the gorge, where the rocky wall is bulging out even more towards the road. Passing through hell's throat and turning around, we got a nice view of the altar stone in the distance, taking the metaphor even further. After our walk, we got back into our van and headed to our next destination, following the river all the way to the impressive Bicaz Dam. Built between 1950 and 1960, this 127 meters tall dam is described as the result of an immense, decade-long human effort, as its construction involved approximately 18,000 people during the communist regime. It involved soldiers, local residents, and political prisoners forced into labor. I've read that the most dangerous tasks were assigned to intellectuals, priests, and prisoners coming from wealthier backgrounds. The poor working conditions, the lack of experience of the prisoners, as well as the high risk of certain jobs, resulted in many accidents and even death. Citizens from around 2,000 households from a total of 20 villages were displaced to build the reservoir. Some people disassembled their homes and rebuilt them piece by piece in a nearby location. Cemeteries had to be relocated, while the remnants of a church were left behind, now at the bottom of the lake. I've read that legend says those who tried to use dynamite to destroy the church were followed by a deadly curse. To this day, the dam's hydroelectric power station still remains a very important part of the energy network in Romania, as it is the third highest dam in the country. It was designed to withstand earthquakes of up to 9.5 on the Richter scale, surviving even a great earthquake from 1977. The views are undeniably beautiful, and the calm, peaceful atmosphere we found here would not have given away its dark past. A reminder that sometimes nice things have ugly origins. A tragic duality of two extremes humanity is capable of. A tale of lasting, durable creation and ruthless sacrifice. Having seen all the major attractions on our list, it was now time to head back to Vatra Dornei. We've seen the snow gradually starting to melt throughout the day, more in some places, less in others along our road trip, but melting in general nonetheless. So the color palette changed to more browns, greens, and teal. As the sun was setting, we were struggling to stay awake, lulled by the peaceful scenery and the gentle music from the car radio. Evening shows the day, our driver reminded us jokingly, changing the saying from the original morning version to ask us how we liked our day. As I'm writing this and picking the best clips to include here, remembering this bit feels unexpectedly melancholic. For dinner, we had some traditional local food, like this polenta with meat, veggies, and a strong garlic sauce, before heading back to our Airbnb and playing board games for the rest of the night. On the final day of our trip, I headed out to film some more, while you guys grabbed some coffee. Located on the outskirts of the park, the casino can be seen when walking along the Dorna river as well. A lot of the snow had already melted by then, unfortunately, but I still stumbled upon reasons to smile here. Some of you had the excellent idea to squeeze in some more winter shenanigans before we left. We rented a couple of these giant inflatable donuts and went for a few rounds of snow tubing. Another adventure was successfully completed, and it was time to go home. We've taken the views with us and left our footprints in the snow in return. If Sadoveanu is right, the scenery will keep changing with each dawn, noon, and twilight, as it forgets our footsteps along with the melting snow. But we will remember how the scenery looked in that moment, as we keep changing along with it too. Thank you.